I'm Coach Bev, and I'm coming to you from Regal Awakening Educational Coaching Services. I coach you as you coach your kids into reaching their goals using the knowledge and skills that I have gained as an educator and veteran parent. Today, we are going to talk from the topic teacher shortages and what it means for your child. We have all heard of teacher shortages and the Great Migration, the teachers leaving the educational field altogether, not just necessarily switching schools, but just finding a totally different career path. When we think about teacher shortages, we don't really think that it is going to have that big of an effect. Yes, we know that that means that there are going to be bigger class sizes and different things of that nature. But have you ever really considered the direct effect that it has on your children in the classroom when there are teacher shortages? I have 4 points that I am going to share today about how your students are affected when there are shortages in the school. Now, there was a time when teachers would put in their notices and finish out the school year before they leave and go on to their next careers or do whatever. However, I have noticed a shift. There is a major shift taking place. Some teachers are finding their careers in the middle of the school year, and they are not waiting until the year is over before they leave to pursue that new career. When this happens, it puts the kids in a different type of situation. Teacher shortages mean that there may or may not necessarily be a permanent teacher in that classroom. And when this happens, this affects the kids in different ways. The first point that I would like to make about teacher shortages is the substitute that the child may have. While the principals are shopping around and waiting for people to apply for that position that is opening, there is going to be a substitute if the kids are lucky to have the same substitute every day in their class. The teacher may or may not be a teacher of the subject that is being taught. If this happens, that the teacher that is substituting in the class to fill in for the missing teacher does not have knowledge of the subject, that is going to affect the amount of knowledge that the students gain while they are hoping and waiting for a teacher to take over that class. This is going to affect the final outcome of the student's grade, what they've learned, if it's a foundational course that they need to take in order to get into another class. This can have an effect on them in the terms of they may not be where they need to be when they get to the next level, if they make it to the next level. Substitutes generally rely on lesson plans that are generated by the teacher when the teacher is not there. If the substitute is left in a position to have to plan and give and implement curriculum for the students that they are not necessarily experts in, that is going to severely affect the children's knowledge that they're going to obtain in that class. The second way students are affected when there is no teacher in the class is dispersals. Dispersals is when there's no sub, there's not a permanent teacher, no permanent sub there, if you will, in the class. And so the children get divided up into little small groups and they have to go sit in different teachers' classes, or it may be the whole class that goes and sit in another teacher class. The students may or may not be in the class. For instance, if they have an English teacher that's missing, they may or may not go sit in an English class when they are dispersed. They could be in an English class, a science class, or a CTE course, or whatever class that's available for that teacher that is doing coverage for that period. Also, when you have students to come into your class that's not your students, and they're not necessarily doing the exact same things that you are teaching your students, you're going to focus on the students that's in your class. And the students that have been dispersed into the class of the teacher that's teaching a different subject, they're probably just going to sit back and do some work that's been left behind, assigned, some type of assignment. It's going to be kind of hard for them to get the class management that they need, to make sure that the kids are staying on task, staying on target, and actually getting their work done. The whole point of students being dispersed into another class is basically for class management purposes, just to have them managed. So therefore, you could just about count on the loss of instruction having an effect on the students. The third point that I would like to make is that the shortage could result in students skipping class and not completing their work because no one is really there monitoring them and making sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do. A lot of them will opt out of doing their work. It is not uncommon for students to feel like we got a sub, we don't have to do anything. A lot of them will skip. I'm just going to be honest. A lot of kids will skip if they know that they're just going to go sit in somebody's class and do minimum work. They're bored. So they feel like it's a lot more excitement in it for them if they go out and just skip. And we all know that that is not a good position for the students to be in because we then have safety issues. We have to be concerned about what the children are getting involved in while they're not in class. There are a lot of different things that children can get into when there's not supervision around. So we definitely have to be concerned about the fact that students may opt out of going to class. And even if they are in a class, say for instance, their teacher that's missing is a math class and they get put into the exact same math class, they still may opt to go to another teacher's class. They'll go to a class with their friends and say, can we sit in your class? And if that teacher is a little, friendly or know them, they may or may not allow the students to sit in their class during their class period, which also, in addition, results in loss of instruction. When children are dispersed into another class, and this is leading up to my fourth point, let's say that your child has a permanent teacher, but the class is dispersed. Other students are coming into the class, and the teacher is stretched thin amongst two different classes. This affects your child that has a permanent teacher because now the teacher has to devote attention depending on the type of class management issues that the other kids are bringing into that class. Now the teacher has to deal with this class in addition to managing their class. So this is going to affect the students that have a permanent teacher and that's in there trying to get their lesson because they're being disrupted with the integration of a whole nother class. I have three things that we can do as a community to improve the issues of teacher shortages. The first thing that we can do is teacher salary. Now, there are some teachers on the spectrum that really don't have too much of an issue with teacher salary. But I do know that teacher salary is a big deal, especially for new and incoming teachers. with retirement and benefits and all of the things that's deducted out of teacher pay. If a teacher is making 35 or $3,600 a month, by the time all of those deductions get taken out of their check, they're lucky if they're bringing home 2,000 and some change per month. That is a major issue, and that really does have an effect on the lifestyle of the teacher that's trying to grow as an educator. Some teachers are forced to decide whether or not they want to be an educator or pursue a better living. For a lot of educators, the pay, it just needs to be better. Yet and still, when we go to Congress, there's always a big discussion every year about teacher pay and teacher salary. And that should not be the case, especially when we're in the situation that we're currently in with teacher shortages. The second thing that needs to be done to help the issue of teacher shortages is students need to have an understanding of why they're in school and why it is important to have respect for their educators. There are educators that quit the field because they have just reached the top of their ability to deal with disrespect and behavior issues that take place in the class. There are some teachers that don't mind dealing with disruptive kids and they have the ability naturally to deal with those type of students, but there are some teachers that just are not able to deal with and handle students that aren't respectful and talk back to them. And I think it's safe to say that some teachers are actually afraid of the students because some students do intimidate their teachers if, given the opportunity. I've heard from teachers where the students tell them to be quiet, go sit down, get out of my face, and things of that nature. These type of behavioral issues contribute greatly to teachers making the decision to leave the confession. The disrespect is just too much for them to handle. In this instance, we can all as a community come together and ensure that our children are coming to school with the right mindset and with manners, and helping them to understand their purpose and why they are in school can contribute greatly to solving this issue. The third thing that we can do to work on this issue of teacher shortages is to make sure that the kids understand the value of getting an education and where this education is going to take them. If the students have a goal and if they have a direction that they are heading in and they have something that they are working towards, it really does make a difference in a child's education. And as parents, it is part of our job to ensure that our children know why they're going to school, help them to establish goals, help them to understand what they need to do to obtain and exceed, if possible, those goals that they are trying to obtain. Those are a few things that I think that we need to do in order to improve the teacher shortages. Teacher shortages is a real thing, and it saddens me as an educator to see that so many people have made the decision to walk away. This leaves our students in a dire position. We need quality, dependable, motivated educators that's going to come into classes and affect change in the lives of the students that we come into contact with. We really need to get serious about the state of education. As an educator, I am fearful of where we're headed. I want to see every child get the education that they deserve, as well as the other educators and administrators that I work alongside every day. if we come together as a community and try to find ways to remedy the issues that we are having, I believe that we can make a turn in education and just do great things in the lives of students. I'm Coach Bell, and you can find me on Instagram at Regal Awakening, Facebook at Regal Awakening. I also have a website, www.regalawakening.com, and you can also book coaching sessions if you would like through that website. You're looking at the video, so you know where to find me on YouTube. Thank you for your time. And if you like the video and the topics that we are discussing here on this channel, hit like. And if you would like to subscribe to the content, hit the subscribe button. And if you hit the notification bell that you see there, you will be able to be notified whenever I post a new video. Thank you for your time. I'm Coach Bell.